The early history of origami is not particularly well known. The running theory is that origami would have been developed along with kind of the invention of paper in 1 or 200 AD in China. Origami translates from Japanese directly as two-fold paper. Oru is a verb meaning fold, and kami is a word meaning paper. So origami directly means two-fold paper. It wasn't until the early 1900s that origami developed into more of a complicated art form. Artists like Akira Yoshizawa in particular began to experiment with folding more complex and detailed origami models and kind of really push the boundaries of what origami could be. This ushered in a new mindset regarding origami. In the 1960s, people began to examine the math behind origami, and you see the development then of techniques like box pleating and circle packing throughout the end of the 20th century that bring origami design from a trial and error to a direct computational approach. So the turn of the century was really kind of a crazy time for origami as some of these theories were really developed and published and became more accessible to a general body of folders who were able to really, really experiment with these things. So that now, in the 2020s, we've got thousands of origami artists around the world who are doing super complex and really interesting and innovative approaches to designing origami and producing incredible art. In case you do not have pre-cut origami squares, I'll demonstrate here how to cut an origami square from a sheet of printer paper. If your paper is not exactly 8.5 by 11, this technique still works, so don't worry about it. This is just normal sheet of printer paper. In order to get a square from it, and you don't even need to cut, I'll show you how to do it without scissors even. Take one of these edges and you're going to fold it up to the top edge. We're going to bisect this angle. Just like that. Make sure your crease goes exactly through this corner, and this edge lies perfectly flat on this one. So you've got them lined up. You can make that crease. Make it nice and sharp. We need this one to be good and precise. Just like that. And you see this rectangular strip? We're going to flip the paper over, and everything past this point will get folded back. If your paper is a longer or a shorter rectangle, the length of this will be different, but the technique is still the same. We'll flip it over. You can kind of see through the paper this line. We're going to fold along that same line through this point, perpendicular to this edge. Another one, you want to be really careful lining this up. Just like that. This is what it looks like from the other side. Now we can unfold that. And if you have scissors, you can just go ahead and cut along this crease. I prefer to do it the technique that I'm about to show you, since it's a little bit easier to stay precise, and this way you don't need scissors or anything. We're going to fold that back down and we're going to really sharply crease it. Right? If you have a, you can use the back of a spoon for this. You can use the cap of a pen. You can use whatever you want. If you want to use a tool to just really sharpen that crease, I'm just pulling this, press down along that crease, and then we'll flip it over. We're going to do the same. We'll fold it back the other way. We'll do the same thing. We're going to really sharpen this crease. What we're doing here is that when you make a fold in a sheet of paper, you're breaking the fibers of the paper, right? That's what makes creases, is a line of broken fibers. And so when you do this really sharply, instead of just breaking those fibers, we're destroying them, right? You're just demolishing these fibers. And so you can go back and forth as many times as you want to kind of really, really break them down. And that's going to make this line that we're folding just weaker and weaker to the point where you can just rip it off in a straight line. You don't have to do this for forever. Do it, a couple times on either side is probably good. The more times you do it, the weaker it's going to be, and the easier it will be to get a perfect square out of it. But don't stress too much. And at this point, take this and we're going to rip it. I'll show you how. The way that I like to do it is to kind of take my hand on either side of that crease and push inwards at an angle, like this. So this edge rises up, and that's going to put stress on this point right here. Now that we've got the stress is kind of controlled, then you can start to pull it apart. Just like that. And now you've got a square that's perfect for folding these origami models.